So just to kick things off,
Yeah.
Steve tells me that you're
Yeah.
making a really bold claim that you
Um,
can remove any spot. And I'm like,
e-
wait a second, any spot? Seriously? Are you really?
yes, I mean, there is going to be an asterisk on top of that claim
Okay.
and with an explanation, as in, like, we remove the color, so the spots, including the original color of the carpet, and then we
Sure.
dye it back.
Right.
If you are able to put the color back, then you are on to a great result. If you just remove the color, then you end up with a bleach spot. Obviously, we do color repair, so we use textile bleaches, quite strong ones. When they don't work, we accelerate them. Hydrogen peroxide, we accelerate it with UV light, which is standard. Everybody does that. I've started introducing a second level of enhancing of the hydrogen peroxide with high pH.
Okay.
So, and once you put the two together, you've got a really potent bleach, which is going to remove color no matter what. Obviously, on organic stains. Um, Failing that, you've got your reducers, and of course, your use heat to accelerate them, and you can play with the pH again, bring it down to 4.5, where it accelerates the bleaching effect, and then you've got a double bleaching. So with these two, yeah, we can remove most of the colors, and obviously you've got sodium hydrosulfate, which is the last resort. We remove color. The question is, so I'll stand by that claim. The question is,
Okay.
what happens once you remove that color? If you're able to put the color back, then yeah, you've got a great result. If you just remove the color and you don't know how to dye it back, then you end up with a bleach spot.
Right.
Yeah,
I
but
have to
that's
add to this as well that Gab does often remove the stains without the colour in the carpet. Does it on Sisal a lot. Also, I mean, there's that one in the Wool Safe News about, from Wilton Carpets. He took out the iron brew.
oh yes,
Yeah, so I mean,
forgot about
the
that.
first goal is to take out the stain without the colour from the carpet.
Sure.
And but if you're able to push it to the next level because safe in the knowledge that should it go past that point and you take colour out of the carpet, you know how to put it back.
Well, I have to say, just on the surface, I mean, I've been to a few of these dye classes, right? And one of the things that everybody says is, now go easy with it, be careful.
Right.
It sounds like you're going the other way. You're like, yeah, let's bring in the blowtorches and the
Well, no, I was
teasing, of
addressing
course.
I was addressing the claim that we can remove any color. So I was already in the mindset of stubborn stains that don't
Sure.
react to standard spotters and so on. So you've tried your mild sod mat, you've tried your little 3% hydrogen peroxide, that didn't work. So I was already thinking on really stubborn stains that nobody else can remove. Then we bring the guns out just to kind of explain my claim that we can remove any spot. Obviously, the aim is to remove just spots, and on Sisal, it works pretty well. However, as we'll find out on that course, dyeing Sisal, putting color back on Sisal is the easiest thing you can do. So
Okay.
if it does happen to go a little bit too far, then we've got the Brio dyes, which are made specifically for Sizer, and you apply them very easily with an airbrush. And yeah, I wouldn't say foolproof, but pretty easy.
Okay. That's really interesting because honestly, when I've done this, when I've tried to do it, that was one of the frustrating things. It's like I can't get this stupid color out very well.
Okay.
And I wish I had something that, that could up it. Of course, you probably have to walk a fine line between removing the color and frying the fibers, because I'm sure you can do that as well.
Absolutely. The aim is to remove the color. Well, the aim is to remove the stain to begin with.
Right.
Without removing the color. If you have to go a step forward and remove some of the color, fine, but the main aim is to do no damage.
Sure.
I mean, yeah, of course you can remove any color if you think 30% hydrogen peroxide with 30% ammonia, you're going to remove the color. But if you do it on wool or on silk, then you've got bigger problems than just the color. Now, we try to work with sensible percentages. When we talk about hydrogen peroxide, we start with 3%. If we have to, we move on to 6, but I never, which is why I've introduced the 2 levels of accelerating the bleaching effect, because I would rather do that than go higher on the concentration of bleaches and so on. But obviously, you start with the lowest level and you gradually increase your textile bleaches. I'm being very careful when I say bleach because I did have students who thought we are talking about chlorine bleaches.
Right.
Yeah, which we don't use. But yeah, the aim is to do no damage. So I do ask Steve every now and then to cover his ears when I say move on to 6% hydrogen peroxide or increase your concentration of sodium hydrosulfide or sodium metabisulfite. But usually we try to stick with small percentages to make sure we don't do any fiber damage. In this course that we are doing, it's only for sisal and viscose, and sisal is quite resilient. And even if you remove too much color, it's, as I said, the easiest thing you can dye back.
Right.
You have to be obviously way more careful when it comes to viscose.
Certainly.
We go
I was going to ask you about that.
fine, yeah, very fine layers of dye, dry in between, reevaluate, so time consuming, very careful with it, but it can be dyed in a similar way and more importantly with the same dyes. So
Oh, interesting. Okay.
with the same dyes, yeah. They are both cellulosic fibers. The dyes initially were made for sisal, and they do work on any cellulosic fiber. So
Got it. So this is not your dye that you would use on a nylon or,
no.
yeah,
No.
got it. Okay.
I've got 2 sets of dyes. I've got acid dyes that you would use on nylon and wool and silk. And we've got the cellulosic dyes, which, as I said, they were made initially for sisal, but they do work on any cellulosic fiber. They work on cotton, they work on linen, they work on viscose, of course, any other cellulosic fiber they would stick to them. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Okay, great. So
There's a lot of jute rugs coming out of India and work on those as well, right, Gab?
Absolutely. I haven't mentioned jute, but yeah, jute, what else? Hemp. I did.
Diesel. Yeah.
probably the seagrass rugs and
Oh,
and
yes.
drapes.
When I say, usually during the course, I do mention, when I say sisal, I mean the entire family, sisal, seagrass, hemp, and so on. So,
Got it.
yeah.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. So this really is something that that I don't. I mean, I've never heard of anybody doing this until now. It seems like
Okay.
everybody was focused on wool and nylon.
Yeah.
So you've hit upon something here because I mean, especially viscose. Viscose is just such a nightmare, and it stains if you even look at it wrong. You
Yes.
know. Yeah.
Absolutely. I shot myself in the foot because when I started doing color repair and I started doing it on viscose, obviously all the rug cleaners around me thought perfect. Whenever they have a problem, they don't even ask anymore. They just bring the rug, there you go, fix it. And they go like, right,
Right.
thank you very much. Why did I say that? So I ended up doing so much work on viscose and sisal. It was never the aim to specialize on dyeing these fibers, but it just happened so the demand is there, nobody else does it, and it all comes to me for some reason.
Right. Well, and you can charge for it, because a lot of
I
those
I do indeed charge
they're
for it, yeah.
making such incredibly expensive rugs out of it. I mean, it's such a bad material, and yet they charge so much for it, and it ends up in all the really high-end homes. So
Absolutely.
it's a great skill to have. So that makes a
Absolutely.
lot of sense.
I'm still in conversation with a designer who has got a viscose rug, and obviously they try to remove a small stain, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger to the as it does, the
Of
more.
course, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we were talking about cost of replacement, and I looked at it and I said, look, the steps to fix that rug are as follows. We collect the rug 2 hours away, we bring it to our workshop. I would need to fully immerse and clean that rug because the initial stains were pet urine.
Okay.
So I would need to fully immerse and clean that rug. Then I would need to dry it. Then I would need to locally reduce every single stain, locally dye it to blend in. And once we've done all that, over dye the entire rug. So I've explained, I do, funny enough, have a short video, poorly edited, but it does show every single step that you have to do on a similar problem. And I said to her, in my opinion, it's beyond economical repair. And she was incredibly surprised. She said, but my rug is over £8,000. How can it be beyond economical repair? Surely it doesn't cost that much to fix that rug. And funny enough, it doesn't cost that much, but my reply to her was, yeah, it's still beyond economical repair. That's how much, in order to I mean, what I forgot to mention, she could make it in a hand loom quality at just over £3,500. And that brings it pretty much where I would have been with a charge to fix it. And
Right.
in the end, she said, but just comes to show how much you can charge and you should charge if you are to do it properly, especially when it comes to viscose, because it's so water sensitive. Everything you do in layers. So you apply a layer of dye, you let it dry properly, and I like to do that, go to work on a different project, come back to it later once it's fully dry. So it's time consuming, but yeah, it's nobody else does it, and it does save a lot of rugs. And yeah, it's mainly high-end homes who end up with these products, and it's up to us to fix them.
Sure. And if the rug had been a 15,000 pound rug, it would have been a steal.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. If the rug was more expensive, I would have been less than 40% cost of replacement to fix it, and I would have looked like a hero, and they would have been very happy, and yeah, would have been great. In this case, it wasn't, but yeah, it's one out of God knows how many viscose rugs are out there.
What a great skill to have. That's really awesome. Yeah.
Um, Yeah, with the sizer, I don't know how much sizer you get in the States.
We get some. It tends to be in the higher end homes a lot.
Good.
Designers love the stuff. They like the look. It's got texture to it, and it's so they're in love with it still, it seems. And yeah, when the dog pees on it, or you end up with stains of that nature, I mean, I don't know. I was never able to get them to look right again, but I didn't know how to dye the stuff. So,
Yeah.
That's
That's the
great.
thing. If you can put the color back in, then you're limited
Right.
because you can only try to remove the stain within safe limits without affecting the color. So the level you can go with the stain removal is dictated by your skill. If you know how to pull the color back in, then you are a bit bolder because you think, so if I take a shade of the color out, so what? I'm just going to put a shade back, and that gives you way more flexibility in the range of solutions you can use on options you have, and so on. So it's I always say, because a lot of carpet cleaners think dyeing is only for carpet dyers. In my opinion, every single carpet and rug cleaner should know how to do dyeing, if only for being able to use a whole range of solutions on stain removal. If you know how to put the color back, then first of all, you are more confident when you work on a stain because what's the worst that can happen? You make it a bit too light, a bit lighter. That's fine. I'm going to bring it back with a touch of dye, and obviously it brings into play solutions like sodium hydrosulfate, sodium metabisulfate, hydrogen peroxide, and so on, which a beginner wouldn't necessarily go for because they are bleaches. And if it goes wrong, then you end up with with a bleach spot.
Sure. But if you can re-dye it, who cares?
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. If you can re-dye it, then you have a whole range of options for stain removal.